Hey guys, it is Carl Brown for GuitarLessons365.com. Today we're going to learn how to play Hysteria by Muse. So this has got some killer bass guitar in it, but we're going to learn the normal guitar parts here that Matthew Bellamy plays. But there's still some really cool solo. He's using a lot of effects that I'm not going to really have on my tone here. I'm just trying to show you guys the notes and not really create his tone too much. So let's start here. We're in standard tuning. Now the song starts with this kind of a creepy little sound. What he's doing is he's taking his pick. So it's like a slow pick slide. But you know, most pick slides go down. He's coming up with it. And he's also actually playing the fret. So he's actually pushing down hard enough. He starts it on the 5th fret there on the low E. And as he slides up, just moves up, since he's actually pushing the string into the fret and doing a slide, the pitch slowly raises. And then it'll just kind of, you know, as it kind of builds and goes into the main riff, it just kind of moves it up, and then we have that main octave riff that I just played. Alright, so the hardest thing about this octave riff is muting, is keeping the other strings around the octave and the bend, since it feels a lot different than the octave, muted. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. So when we have this first octave, if you don't know what an octave is, it is, an octave shape at least, is the 12th fret here on the A string and the 14th fret on the D. So it's the same note an octave apart. But you see, when I hit the strings, you just want to hear those two notes. So how you accomplish that is you let the index finger go a little bit past the string, the A string, and it just bumps up against the low E string there. So it can't really ring. And then the same index finger at the bottom of it is going to mute that D string. And then the rest of the index finger, it's going to be doing a lot of muting, is muting the B and the E string. So if you want, you can strum all 6 strings, and really you're only going to hear those 2 notes in the middle of them. And then you jump up here, so you go so down, up, down, up, down, down, up. And then we're going to jump up to this 16th fret here on the G string, bend and release, down to the 14 on the G. All right, now we basically do the exact same riff, same rhythm, same bend and everything. The only thing we're going to change is the fret that we're playing the octave on. So we're going to move from the 12th fret of the A string down to the 11th fret. So that 3rd finger is going to go with it. Then move it down to the 8th fret. And then down to the 7th fret. And then when we do the bend this time, you're just going to do the bend and release, but don't go down to the 14th fret. Just hold the note. So we have this. So I will let you know that don't try to hit all 6 strings. Just aim for those 3 strings that the 2 outside octave notes are part of. The muting is there just in case. So then you go through the second time. Once again, you hold that 16, and then come hit this open A power chords. Just the open A string with the 2nd fret on the D and the G. And it goes into the verse. And there's no guitar during the verse. The bass is just really what's keeping everything going there. All right, so then we get to the chorus. Now the chorus, I've seen him play this a couple ways. There's a lot of movement behind the chorus, the guitar part. which is basically just power chords, but with the bass guitar, it really gives it a lot of movement behind it. But the basic, chorus chords, you start by just muting the strings and just going down, up, 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 and into the chorus. And it's got that little tricky ending there. Now, when I say that he plays this a couple times, sometimes he just relaxes on those power chords. I'll just show you what those power chords are. Third fret off the A string power chord. This is the 3-string power chord, not the 2. So third fret on the A, then fifth on the D and the G. Take that same shape, now move it up 1 string to the low E string. And do that same thing that you just did now at the 5th fret. So what I mean by sometimes he'll vary it, he'll do this. He'll give it a little bit of a slide into the note to give it some movement. On the recording, the actual recording with all the bass guitar and this really overdriven sound, it's kind of hard to really hear that. And live, I've seen him just stay straight on the chords. And sometimes he'll add that. He just really kind of slightly, he kind of keeps the root note there, and then he just kind of slides the other 2 fingers real quick. So it's really up to you what you think sounds the best. Now that little ending here, you're going to see this a couple times in the song. So that's just alternate picket, starting with the downstroke. So the low E string open twice, and then 10, 12. So this. One more time. Then back to the low E string, then the 10th fret on the A string, back to the low E. So this. All right, and then we end it with this. The 10th fret twice there on the A string. Over to the 12th fret on the E. And then back 10, 12 on the A. So that's the very end of it. So we have this. And then it goes back into the main room. So that's coming out of that chorus. And then we're back to that same riff, back through the same chorus section. Now the second chorus ends a little differently. Instead of jumping to that riff right there, he does this. All right, so it's just kind of completing those 4 chords this time instead of stopping there at on the chord on the A string. It goes all the way down to the low E string chord. Just hit it a few times. Some more mutes, and then just slide down from the 12th fret there. And that takes us to the bridge section, which is at the, where is that? 2-minute and 13-second mark. It sounds like this. All right, and that leads us into the solo, of course. So that riff is really cool too. So that starts, it's kind of similar to what we did before. Open E string, then 10, then open. And then 10, 12. So it's very similar. It's basically the same as the first half of the riff that we just learned. So after you do that 10, 12 now, this is the open E string. Then the 10th fret, I move back and play that with my middle finger. then the open E again. So we have this. And then you just do this. You go 10-9 open, then 9-8 open, then 8-7. So with this. So after I got down there, I just started over. All right, and now, so after you do that 3 times, you end it with the same ending that we had with the first chorus. So it's the same lick that we learned earlier. All right, so that's a really fun part. It's got a really cool groove to it. And now we have the guitar solo, which has got some kind of really cool interval skips and kind of really sounds kind of like it's coming out of a computer. It's pretty cool. All right, so let me play the solo for you real quick so you can see what we're going to be learning. Here we go. Back to the chorus there. All right, so as you can see, it's got some pretty big stretches there and everything. So let's take a look at this. It's really musical, though. It's really a very unique solo. So we're going to start here. All right, so we're going to start with the 14th fret there on the G string, down, up, hit that twice, and then the 12th fret there on the high E string. Now you're going to go back to the 14 on the G twice again, and then 13th fret on the high E string. So we have this. Back to the 14th fret on the G string twice, and then play 13 twice on the high E, 12, and then play 14 once on the G, back up to the 12th fret with an upstroke on the high E string. So that's all strict alternate picking. We have this. One more time slow. Now we basically do the same thing, but we're going to take the note on the 14th fret and move it down to the 13th fret there on the G string, but which makes us kind of have to play it a little bit differently. So we have this, and then we have to do it like this. All right, so just if you can think of the same pattern, just moving this back and having to play with a little bit different fingers. So it's 13 twice on the G, then 12th fret there on the high E, back to the G string, back to the 13 on the high E string, and then back to 13 again, 13 twice on the high E, 12 twice, and then 13 once on the G, then up on the 12th fret there on the high E string. So let me just play through what I've got so far. It's really the same pattern done twice with just a 1-note difference on the G string. All right, now we have a little bit of a stretch. So that's going to be 14 on the G string again, twice, and then 13 on the high E string twice, then back to the 14, and then all the way up to the 17th fret with your pinky there at the high E string. So each of these notes are being hit twice. It's just a down up. Back to the 14 on the G string, back to the 13 on the high E string, back to the 14, and then back to the 12 on the high E. So this. And then we end basically the first half of it with the exact same way we played it with the 14th fret, the same pattern that we did to start the solo with the 14th fret on the G string. So far we have this. All right, now from there we just start the solo over the exact same way we did before. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to stop here from where we did in the first half. That's where we're going to deviate and do this. There's a little descending sequence there. Now we're basically starting on the top high E string 12th fret twice, to 14 on the G string twice, and then 15 on the B twice, to 15 on the D twice, and then 13 on the B, to 14 on the D string, and then he slides that down. He's still doing the same phrase, but you can hear him slide. He kind of gets to this note before he actually plays the full pattern there. So we have this. And then when he gets down to the 12, he plays the 12 on the B string twice, and then down to that 12 on the D. So we have this. All right, and then we have a thing that's really kind of, he plays arpeggios across the strings, but lets them ring out a lot. All right, so we're going to start this with a C major arpeggio from the 13th fret here on the B, 12 on the G, and 14 on the D. Then do a half step bend at the 12th fret on the B string. Release, then hammer on 10 to 12. And then you're going to just now grab the 12th fret across these strings, the B string. Still, you already got your finger there. Add the 12th fret on the G with your middle finger, and then the 12th fret on the D with your index finger. That's a G major chord, so you're going to be picking across those for this. All right, from there, so basically he builds up. He has a little melody in between each little arpeggio. So then it's 12 twice. Then 13, slide up to 15, and then 13, slide to 15. And then when you get to 15, that's going to be the top note of a D minor arpeggio. So that's 15th fret on the B string, 14th on the G, and 15th there on the D string. And then we have this little melody. So that's 15, 13, 12, slide back to 13. Now you're going to pick the 13 there as the first note of the last arpeggio in the sequence, which is an A minor arpeggio. So it's 13 on the B, 14 on the G, 14 on the D. So we have this so far. Then you basically start over with 15, 13, 12, and hammer back onto the 13. And then you pick that 13 again as the first note of starting over, going through those same arpeggios, starting with the C major. Play this. So he does the first two there, and then he goes into this, which is 12 to 13 on the B string, and then do a slow whole step bend on the 13th fret, and then to the 14th fret there on the D. And then we end it like, so we basically skipped that third arpeggio, and then we have the same melody going into the last A minor arpeggio again, which is just 15, 13, 12, slide back to 13, and then pick across that same A minor arpeggio. And then there's a lot of muted strums again, going back into that same chorus. All right, so it's a really cool solo. Now at the end, at the 3 minute and 25 second mark, we basically have an extension of that kind of bridge riff we did. So what it is, it's basically that same riff we did in the bridge, this time done 6 times. And at the very last time you play it, instead of ending it on the 7th fret, you're going to end it at the low E power chord, the open E string and the 2nd fret of the A. So you can kind of slightly palm mute that to let the notes pop out, but really, it really rocks. It's a really fun riff to play. As soon as you get done with your fingers, you don't really have to think about it too much. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a great song. One of the kind of Muse's early hits from an album of theirs that I really like a lot. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again soon for GuitarLessons365.com.